Hey, everyone, and welcome to week number 4 of Pickswise Playbook. I'm your host, Chris Rose, joined, as always, by our betting extraordinaire, Jared Smith. Hello, Jared. How are you?
Chris, Ross, if my picks are not good this week, I'm going to do what Jalen Hurts did on Monday night. I'm going to just flush them. Just flush them and move on to the next week. But I don't think they're going to be bad. I think they're going to
don't stare at them. That's right. You've already mentioned him. He was a 7-year NFL pro with 5 different teams, and he took a limo ride with Joe Horn. Ross Tucker. Hello, Ross.
Chris, I don't need to worry about my picks being bad. 2 reasons. Number 1, they're always good. And number 2, everybody looks at their number 2 before they flush it.
Sad but true.
That's a very true, clean actually. Start on this show. Once again, the whole goal of this show is to help you make smarter bets. We want to help you win the green out there. Go for it. It's very simple. Both these guys have outstanding winning records so far. I don't want to talk about who's been better than whom. Actually, I probably do, but I'm not going to bring it up because I don't want to burst anybody's ego. However, Ross, real quickly before we start, you're wearing a Pickswise shirt, right?
Yeah, I'm on the same team as you, Chris. Yes. I wear a Pickswise clothing because I love Pickswise. I wake up in the morning thinking about Pickswise. I go to bed at night thinking about Pickswise. It's more important to me to support what we're doing here than try to be awesome, button down with the sweater vest zip guy. You know what I mean?
This is the red uniform in football practice, though. I'm like the quarterback. You can't touch me.
Good try on that. Quick reminder, everybody go download the Pickswise app. It's available in Apple and Google Play Store for more betting insights in every major sport. So it's not just the NFL, although we love it when you listen to us. But it's baseball, it's NBA, it's the college game. Everything is there for your betting pleasure. So let's get it going with week 4. Where else would you want to start than the NFC North with the winless Lions taking on the Chicago Bears? And Matt Nagy came out and he said, depth chart is still the same. Andy Dalton 1, Justin Fields 2, Nick Foles, Super Bowl MVP, is 3, and it's all dependent on Andy Dalton's knee. Does it really matter what we're looking at here, Ross Tucker? Because I think Bears fans are still trying to clean up the vomit after they watched the Bears game plan in Justin Fields' first start. Does it matter to you?
Yeah, it does, because I watched that game. And I think we saw, and I know you're not allowed to say this in public because then you're a hater and then you're not on board with everybody else. I think we saw why Matt Nagy says Andy Dalton's the starter. And I'm not putting it all on Justin Fields. The offensive line is not good. Justin Fields does not appear to be ready and is more prone to holding on to the ball. And they probably don't want to wreck his confidence and ruin him 5 games into his NFL career. So I think you say, and maybe Matt Nagy knows he's not that creative to come up with a bunch of RPO schemes or whatever for Justin Fields to be more comfortable. So I think we saw sometimes when people are telling you something, maybe just believe them. When Matt Nagy's like, yeah, Andy Dalton's the starter, I do think it makes a difference. I don't think Andy Dalton is going to start this week. I think the Bears are just putting that out there, but I don't think he's only going to miss 1 game after a bone bruise in his knee. My guess is it's probably Justin Fields again. It could even be Nick Foles, which is just amazing in the year of our Lord, 2021, that third string Nick Foles could start. It all matters. Somehow the line is going in the Bears' favor. Earlier this week, it was Detroit getting 2.5. Now the Lions are getting 3. I don't like that line for the Lions. I love it. The Lions have been right there all 3 games. The Lions have showed me something every week. The Bears have really only shown me anything against the Bengals in week 2. I will gobble up the Lions and those points. Wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if they win this game outright. They're kind of due.
This game's put me in therapy a little bit already, and we're only taping this here on a Wednesday. So this line last week was Chicago -6. And that's significant. I mean, anytime a line flips like that, not flips, but moves significantly 3 points in the other direction in just a week's time, you take notice. And, you tend to like to look at the other side. So you're getting line value on Chicago, but that does not overcome this Matt Nagy effect. And I'm worried about the psyche of Justin Fields. Here's how you ruin the confidence of a young quarterback. You say that the third stringer might be starting over you. And that, to me, is bad. There's something going on with the Bears right now. Clearly, Justin Fields is not ready. Maybe Andy Dalton's not healthy. And I don't know if that means you turn to Nick Foles. And, why don't you just throw Jay Cutler's name out there? Bring Kyle Orton out of retirement. I mean, I don't understand what the approach is not to make this offense more user-friendly for Justin Fields. We heard from the Browns last week. They were surprised. The pocket was not mobile at all. They did not move Justin Fields at all. And despite the fact that Chicago is the line value play, getting, only laying a field goal at home against the lowly Lions, I can't bring myself to bet this game. I was on it earlier in the week, and I sold out once I heard the quotes coming from the Bears press conferences. And, maybe that, and I'm just afraid to fade Ross after his incredible Packers win on Sunday night. Nice pick there going against me.
Don't worry, we'll get to the Packers momentarily. One last note I'll leave you with the Detroit Lions. You know how many wins Jared Goff has when Sean McVay is not his head coach?
Zero.
As
many as you and me?
Yeah, he's 0-10 all time.
Wow.
Which, by the way, is such a stupid stat. His rookie year with the Rams, they were terrible, and Jeff Fisher was terrible. So far this year, he's on a team that people didn't think would win 4 games. And they were leading the Packers at halftime, and the Niners was a 1-score game. And the Ravens game, they got screwed by the delay of game. And Justin Tucker, my brother from another mother, making a 66-yard field goal. What a dumb stat for you to bring up early in the show, Chris.
Wow.
Ross, I have a quick question. Jared Goff has started 10 games where Sean McVay is not his head coach. Do you know his record?
Yeah. 0-10. We already discussed it. Did you watch the last game? Do you think that's a big reflection on Jared Goff?
No. What I do think, it was poor coaching down the stretch. They played for a field goal instead of going for a touchdown on their last drive, and then they gave up a 4th and 19. Freddie Mitchell wasn't even on the field. So thank you. Let's move on. Titans and Jets. Great. We move right from the Lions to the Jets. Right out of the game. Here you go. This one's for you, Jared, you Jets lover. Here's the good news about the Jets. They're 0-3 this year. Here's the better news. They're 0-3 against the spread. The best news of all, they've scored 20 points, which is the fewest in the NFL, which is actually half as many as the 31st ranked team in terms of points scored this year. And you are taking the New York Jets, Jared, against the Tennessee Titans?
I think this is my favorite play of the week. So the Ross's face. All right, hear me out. Maybe my favorite play of the week. Maybe that's a tad strong. This is definitely in my top 3 plays of the week. So the Jets have played I would say 3 of the best defenses in the NFL the first 3 weeks: Panthers, Pats, and Broncos. At least metrics wise, that's how they're grading out. The Titans defense is not in that category. In fact, I would say the Titans, based on some of the analytics we like to look at, DVOA, yards per play, in the bottom 5 of the league. So I think if there was ever a time for Zach Wilson to get right and not throw a bunch of picks, you're at home, you're facing a bad defense, you're 0-3, your backs are against the wall. Now, let's talk a little bit about the injury bug. A.J. Brown out. Julio Jones, questionable. So that explosive Titans offense is not going to be as explosive this week. And then now we get to the line value part of it. This line was -6 last week. Now it's -8. It's crossed over that very key number of 7, and I'm getting more than a touchdown at home with the Jets. Those 3 factors all combined, the Jets facing all these great defenses, the Titans a little banged up on offense, and then the line movement. You just have to close your eyes and just fire away on gangrene this week.
So 3 things that are important to note here. Number 1, always make sure you shop around, and the Pickswise app is a great place to do that for the best line, because I'm seeing Titans -7 right now. Pickswise for life. All right, so number 1, make sure you shop around. Number 2, I still think it's a great teaser spot for the Titans. They're going to win the football game. So you can tease them from -8 to -2 or -7 to -1, wherever you see the line, wherever you pick the line on Pickswise. That's up to you. Number 3, don't bet on the New York Jets. Okay? I was unbelievable last Sunday. I was on fire. I was 7-1.
Famous last words.
8 units maybe up 10 units. I had one loss last Sunday, just one. I had this great idea to put 2 units on the New York Jets, getting 10.5. They lost 26-0. I watched that game. They stink. Jared actually made some decent points about them playing at home, the Titans defense, and the Titans having injury issues. I don't care. Still don't bet on the New York Jets until I tell you otherwise.
I think all that stuff is fair. Jared, by the way, you have a futures on the Titans to win that AFC South.
And the bookmakers are basically saying that race is over. I saw minus 700 on the Superbook for the Titans to win the South this week, which is implying like an over 80%. I mean, it's crazy. Now, granted, anything could happen in the NFL, and it's only week 4. But when a line goes, I mean, they were I got them plus 110 before the Wentz news, like August-ish, and then they were minus 110, minus 115 week 1, and now from that to week 4, you're minus 700. So that race is almost an open and shut case.
Okay, before we move on to our next game, Ross, were you okay with all the stats I used during that?
I was, yes.
Good.
I love the format of the show where you or Jared say something stupid and then I criticize you for. I don't know if that's Jack or Dan or I don't know which one of our executive producers that is, but this is great for me. You guys say something that's totally wrong. I correct you. We move on to the next game.
Okay, great.
Sounds great.
So far in Ross Tucker circles, if you're keeping score at home, I'm 1-1. I just had a win. I had a loss out of the gate with my stupid Jared Goff stat. Okay, up next, we've got the 3-0 Carolina Panthers coming off of their Thursday night win in Houston. They're back in the state of Texas to take on those hard-charging Dallas Cowboys who mopped the Eagles up and down the field Monday night in their home opener. Dallas, a big favorite, in part because there will be no Christian McCaffrey for the foreseeable future. He blew out his hammy. Okay, Ross, what are we looking at here? Is Carolina's defense good enough to slow down Dak and company?
I think they're good enough to slow him down, but Dak is playing at a really high level. I mean, no one's really mentioning his name, but he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now. I think he's an MVP candidate right now. I don't even know, Jared. You could probably tell me what his numbers are right now for comeback player of the year, his odds, but he's got to be by far the favorite with how he's playing. I'm extremely impressed by him. I always think a 5-point line is weird. You know, it doesn't happen very often. It feels like the line is usually more like 2.5, 3, 3.5, maybe 4, or 6.5, 7. The 5-point lines, they throw me off a little bit. Maybe my small brain can't really handle how much of a critical number that is.
Ross,
but I know this much.
Ross, how do you have a small brain with that large a head?
Yeah, I don't. It's a huge brain, actually.
The math does not work.
It's huge. Yeah. But no, I don't know what to think of the Panthers without Christian McCaffrey. I felt like they were a different team. They try to run the whole offense through him. Chuba Hubbard's not the same. The other guys they have not the same. When there's this much uncertainty for me, and the uncertainty is really how Carolina will play without McCaffrey, and I know they have 10 days rest. I know they're planning, they knew he was out, so they can game plan around it. I usually stay away. I feel like I don't have enough information.
Great points by Ross. And yeah, we're seeing Jack mention minus 110 for Dak to win comeback player of the year. Again, shop around because I found plus 135 a couple days ago, and I went to town on that number after his performance on Monday night. I cannot say enough good things about how Dak Prescott has looked, not only physically, but it looks like mentally, he's overcome. Anytime you suffer one of those gruesome injuries, sometimes it might take a little while mentally to feel like yourself, but he certainly looks like himself. There's a few interesting parts about this game. The key number of 5, and I do say key number of 5, you might be surprised, Ross. It's the 6th most landed on number in the last 10 years. And that's up from a 10th, 11th spot if you make the sample size bigger 20 years ago. And I think it's because of the 2-point conversion and the influx of that has kind of skewed some of these key numbers. But 5 to me does tend to, lean a little more towards the key number spot. And think about this, to think about the lines for last week's games. Philly was getting, really that was a 3-point line. It was 3.5 in some shops, but Philly was a 3-point underdog at Dallas. Carolina's a 5-point underdog. I think Carolina's better than Philly. I think Carolina's defense is way better than Philly's defense. Numbers-wise, Carolina's got one of a top 5 unit right now. And obviously, no Christian McCaffrey is not a good thing. But this is why they got Sam Darnold. And this is why they have Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore on the outside. They need to make plays on the outside if they want to win this game, because Dallas is not going to be timid about throwing the football. They're not going to be timid about running it either, but I think they're going to struggle a little bit to run the ball against this Carolina front this week. So this is a game where I'll take the 5 because I think I'm getting a little bit of value off of what we saw on Monday night. Short week off a divisional game, Panthers on a long week. And I like what I see with Carolina's defense. Better defense catching over a field goal. I think it's a good spot to take Carolina this week.
You talk about how good Carolina's defense is. Number 2 in points allowed per game, number 1 in sacks, number 1 in quarterback hits. And keep in mind, Monday night, the Eagles did get to Dak Prescott. They sacked him 4 times. And one other thing that I'm a little ticked off about, Carolina so far out of the gates, they've been great. They made a trade this week with Jacksonville. Obviously, they had the J.C. Horn injury, so they pick up the former first-rounder C.J. Henderson. They had to give up, in addition to draft picks, Dan Arnold, their tight end, which means that when I do NFL highlights on NFL Network on Sunday, I can no longer say Darnold to Dan Arnold. It kind of takes me off.
The tough one.
The
tongue twister.
Ross, are you taking away all the fun I have in my football life?
No. I'm supporting you on that. I think that's a major bummer. I like that you were getting a chance to say Darnold to Darnold. I thought that was amazing. My was not that's a bad joke. My was like I'm sympathizing with you, Chris. That stinks.
Thank you. Now I feel like we're teammates yet again. All right, let's move on. Ooh, good game. Good late game. Baltimore at Denver, and I love it even more because you guys are on opposite sides of the ledger. So, Jared, tell me where you are and why.
So the look ahead in this game, if you go back to the offseason, was Ravens -3.5. And oh boy, have things changed with the numbers. I mean, you're getting almost a 6-point move. I see 2 in some shops. I grabbed it 1.5. And this is a spot for Denver. I think Denver's looked phenomenal. I think their defenses look great. But the same reasons that I was nervous to lay a big number on them this week or last week against the Jets is the same reasons that I'm nervous this week. Injuries all over the field. You talk about defense. We talked about those defensive injuries last week. Darby, Chubb, Jewell. Now, Jerry Jeudy, we knew about that. And now you throw KJ Hamler into the mix. So while Baltimore struggles, I think, to stop teams, the Peters injury is significant. Can Denver really take advantage of that? Because I think they're a little limited now on offense. And again, you're giving me a ton of line value here. Crossing 0. Now I'm getting points with the Ravens. And I think this is a put up or shut up game for Teddy Bridgewater. If Denver wants to compete and win the AFC West, these are the games they have to win, and Teddy has to be the guy that kind of carries them. Because Baltimore, Lamar Jackson's been in this spot before. They've won games in big spots before. I know he struggled in the playoffs, but I think this is a game where if the injuries are going to start to catch up to Denver, I think Baltimore they should be favored in this game. They were favored in the offseason, and I think they're probably going to get a little momentum after that crazy win on Sunday. But I would side with a little bit of the value here. Take the Ravens.
Jared likes the look-ahead line more than I like ice cream, and I love ice cream. I mean, he loves the look-ahead line. Look, here's what I know. The Ravens have been living dangerously, okay? They should have lost to the Lions. They were fortunate against the Chiefs. They just haven't been a dominant team so far. The Broncos have looked awesome. Have they had the easiest first 3-game schedule ever? Maybe. But they're still winning all of them by double digits.
It's true.
The only thing that gives me a little bit of pause is that the Ravens are getting Justin Houston, Matabike, and Brandon Williams back.
They're getting Bateman and Boykin back, too, from IR.
Boykin and Rashad Bateman are practicing. We'll see how much they're able to play. But at any rate, I'm rolling with the Broncos, man. The Ravens have been on the road a bunch. Now they got to go play in – obviously, the altitude. Give me Denver. I learned my lesson taking the Jets last week. I watched that Denver Jets. Denver's good. They're running backs. They're young guys. They're good. I'm going with the Broncos.
It's interesting because you look at the Broncos and you never apologize for winning a game in the NFL. Don't apologize for your schedule because you didn't make it. It's not like you're picking homecoming games. But I think that Denver did go into the league office before the schedule came out and said, Here's who we'd like to play the first 3 games. We'll play on the road. We'll play at the Giants, and we'll play at Jacksonville. And then if you could have the Jets come over in week 3, that'd be great. They are a combined 0-9, those 3 teams. They played 3 of probably the 4 worst teams in the NFL. It's incredible. I never remember an opening schedule. With all that being said, the Ravens are this close to being 3-0 or 0-3.
Yeah.
And they actually have a negative point differential, even though they have a winning record. I have to be honest with you. Just as a football fan, I don't know enough about either one of these teams. Am I nuts, Ross?
No, you're not. And I'm just looking on social media while we're recording this. Neither Broncos starting guard is practicing on Wednesday. They weren't able to finish the last week's game. So if the Broncos cover, then we're going to talk about this and remind everybody that I was right. If the Broncos don't cover, there's an asterisk, and it doesn't count because of the injury issues.
I can't even argue with him anymore, Chris, because he makes these points that I just have to laugh and smile and nod and just be grateful that I'm part of this dysfunctional
Really, the
team.
important thing to pick up from this is if you ever need to know whether or not to start your right guard in your fantasy league, Ross Tucker's the guy because he's keeping an eye on Wednesday practice sheets. All right, let's move on. Andy Reid, thankfully, is healthy. His team is not in mind. For the first time since week 10 of the 2015 season, they have a losing record. They are 1-2, just like the team they will visit this weekend, the Philadelphia Eagles. Reid won his first time around back in Philly. Now, it's interesting because we can find this right around a touchdown, depends on where you shop around. But, Ross, is this the week where the Chiefs, they step on the accelerator, they're like, guys, we're still the Chiefs. Let's get it going.
Yeah, so I have a really tough time picturing the Chiefs losing this game. I mean, look, if Edwards-Helaire doesn't fumble late against the Ravens, if they just take a knee, they win that game. They turned it over their first 3 times in Chargers territory on Sunday. Mahomes had 2 really bad picks, I thought. The no-look one was just stupid, and his receiver didn't look ready, threw it behind him a little bit. They're still the Chiefs. The Eagles are struggling. Now, the Chiefs haven't been blowing people out, so that makes the line interesting. It's a great teaser spot. Take the Chiefs from -7 down to -1. Pair them up with one of the other teaser legs I'll give you during the game. I'd be surprised if the Chiefs lost this game. Covering the full 7 is a little bit different because I got to think the Eagles will bounce back at home from a horrific performance Monday night.
Kansas City hasn't lost 3 straight games since 2017. I don't see that happening this week. Now, that being said, we do our weekly roundup with all the bookmakers, and one of them this week said Philly's the most volatile team in the NFL. They looked so good against Atlanta, and they looked good enough to beat San Francisco, and then just so bad against Dallas. What Philly team are we going to get? They've been very Jekyll and Hyde. I think the play calling from Nick Sirianni can get a little better. They were really aggressive on Monday night, and it did not pay off. I think they need to utilize Miles Sanders a little more, control the tempo against Kansas City, who has been the worst. How about this? Kansas City has the worst DVOA rating in the NFL right now, which is like the defensive analytics. And that's not going to win you a lot of games in this league. I don't care how good Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce are. So Kansas City's got a lot to clean up on the defensive end. But again, if you move this line from 7 to 1, I think this is probably, other than the Saints, which we'll get to a little bit, I think this is my favorite teaser spot of the week with Kansas City because I just don't see them losing 3 games in a row.
Before we move on from this game, did you guys know that the Chiefs are still the Super Bowl favorite? And
despite
if so,
the 1 and 2.
Well, I know. Do you have a problem with that, Jared?
No, because I think they're going to continue to get so much money that if the books move them down to, let's say, the 2nd tier. So right now, the 1st tier Super Bowl favorites, Rams, Bucks, and the Chiefs. And I think the Bills are starting to creep into that category too. But if you move them down to, let's say, that 10-1 2nd tier, they're going to be getting so much money on the Chiefs, and they're already exposed because you have to make the Chiefs a short number anyways. I think the books are kind of got their hands tied behind their back. Unless the Kansas City just completely falls off the map, loses 4 or 5 games in a row, they will likely be right around the catbird seat for pretty much the entire season, I would say.
Ross?
I don't think they're the Super Bowl favorite at this point, but I understand all the logic that Jared just gave. They're already 2 games behind the Broncos and the Raiders.
Yeah.
And they're in last place. They've got real challenges on defense. And offensively, they're not making that key play late that they did. They were 8-0, I think, in one-score games last year. It's kind of caught up to them.
Okay. Let's move on to the Rams. Last week, they welcomed in the defending Super Bowl undefeated and defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they wiped the floor with them. I mean, it was only 10 points, but it looked worse than that. This week, they're taking on the Arizona Cardinals, a team that people say, yes, they're 3-0. Yes, they've got Kyler Murray. Yes, they've got a lot of offensive weapons. But, so, Ross, where do you see this?
Yeah, well, again, I mean, shop around because I'm seeing Arizona getting 4 some places. This is that 4 or 5 point land that I think is tough. I would probably lean to the Rams in this one, laying the points. Cooper Kupp gets open every play. It's just unbelievable to watch. The Rams are obviously playing extremely well, but the Cardinals showed me something last week. After that kick 6 and after the first drive when Jacksonville ran it down their throats, I thought the Cardinals were going to lose, but they battled back. I think Clint Kingsbury told them about my teaser that I had on them, and they battled back to win the game by 12. So they showed me something. This would just be a lean to the Rams for me.
I think Arizona's getting a little disrespected here. I mean, Kyler Murray's the favorite to win the MVP right now, and they're getting almost a touchdown. I got it at 5 against the divisional opponent. I mean, tell me in what other universe that would happen where the MVP favorite is catching over a field goal against a divisional opponent. So I think that does give me a little bit of hesitation to go all in on this pick with the Cardinals. But I think if you're going to give me this many points in a game where I think Kyler Murray is going to be live throughout, the Rams defense hasn't been dominant so far. They've been kind of middle of the pack, I think, in a lot of the numbers. And that's maybe a little bit less than what we expected from that Rams defense. So I think this is a game where I expect the Rams to win, but I also expect the back door to be open. And I love what I've seen from Kyler Murray. And I bought in on them during the offseason. I've been singing their praises the first few weeks. I'm going to, until they show me that letdown performance where they're unable to keep things close or get the win late, I'm going to continue to ride a little bit of, I think, market disrespect on Arizona.
Except that I talked to somebody in the Rams organization about the Cardinals, and they said, yeah, listen, they're off to a great start. We know all about Kyler Murray. They play 7-on-7 football. When they have to play strap it on, big boy, 11-on-11 football, which is the kind of football we like to play, then we'll see if they don't shrivel up.
Some bulletin board material right there, Chris.
Well, except it was just said to me. So,
yeah.
And now who it was.
It's on the show.
I'm just telling you that somebody in the Rams organization,
it's fair,
and they feel that way up and down the board pretty much.
Wow.
So I don't know. I think this is a prove it to me game for Arizona. I don't know if they've got it in them. I don't know. I always like watching Ross's facial expressions when I say something.
No, I like that. I mean, they're 3-0. Give them some credit.
I'm with you, but I always take game 1 of the season is so different because you have 6 months to game.
They should throw it out. It shouldn't even count. I mean, they should almost throw out week 1. I'm not even kidding.
Especially this year when there's an extra game at the end.
And then week 2, freaking Greg Joseph misses a chippy, and then week 3 they're going down and playing a team that they don't know if they're a college team or an NFL team at this point with Jacksonville, and they were down in the second half against them. So I think Arizona's fun to watch. I think this is a huge, huge game for them. I'm not so sure they can stick with the Rams. By the way, McVay, holy smokes, can we keep that guy in a coach's box or something? He's running from end zone to end zone celebrating with his players. Unbelievable. All right. Saints have their first official home game of the 2021 season. They did play that opener against Green Bay in Jacksonville because of the hurricane. So now they're at home, and they get to take on the New York Giants. And Giants fans are like, you thought Matt Nagy had no imagination on offense. Wait till you see what we're bringing to the table. Ross, what are they bringing to the table this week?
Not much, dude. I mean, Daniel Jones played awesome against Washington. They lost. He didn't turn it over against Atlanta. They lost at home on 10 days rest on Eli Manning Day to the Falcons. Now they're going to New Orleans. against that defense that just destroyed Mac Jones and the Patriots last week. Last I checked, the Saints are laying 7.5, which makes them an unbelievable teaser leg down to -1.5. I love it. I'm gobbling that up. Saints -1.5 on the teaser.
Yeah, I think Joe Judge might be the worst coach in the league this year. I really do. I watched that entire game on Sunday, and they did so many cutaways, and the penalties and the stupid mental mistakes that the Giants make. I mean, taking away great plays by Saquon Barkley because of ineligible men downfield, just stuff that mistakes that they should not be making. I give a guy like Urban Meyer a pass. It's his first time going to the NFL. Joe Judge has been how many years under Bill Belichick? These are the mistakes that you cannot make if you want to take a team like the Giants, which have a ton of pride, all the resources at this franchise's disposal, and they continue to underperform. That's off the field stuff, practice. How about on the field during the games? Now you've got injuries galore. I've seen questionable tags next to Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Kenny Golladay, Saquon Barkley. Blake Martinez is out. The defense is banged up. And you're telling me the only way that I lose this tease is if Daniel Jones goes to New Orleans in the first game since a hurricane and beats the Saints, or they only win by 1? I cannot see that happening. This is the teaser spot of the week. There's some other better teaser, legs to pair it with, but top of the teaser card, New Orleans Saints, hands down.
Can we give the Giants some hope? Jameis Winston in 3 games this year has yet to throw for more than 155 yards in a single game.
They won't need to throw for that much against the Saints defense might hold Daniel Jones really in check.
No. Okay, so the bad news for the Giants, they're 0-3. You want the worst news? They're starting a 7-game stretch in which 6 of their opponents have winning records right now. The one team that doesn't, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh,
if only, Chris, they had played a couple teams recently that were winnable games, If only they had a chance to win the last couple weeks and get a win.
Yeah, it's like Atlanta or Washington. No big deal, right?
Unbelievable. All right. Let's continue on and get to the Sunday night affair. Allegedly, Tom Brady, somebody told me this, played with New England before. I only remember him as a Buccaneer, as a Super Bowl champion in Tampa Bay. But they put this game on Sunday night for some reason. So here we go. What's the number that's dancing around? Are we hearing right around a touchdown, Ross?
-7 for the Bucs, which makes that a teaser spot. Because you know what's not going to happen? And I said this earlier, I'll say it again. Tom Brady's not losing this game. So let me just tell you a little bit about Tom Brady. The guy is a total psychopath. And I mean that as a compliment, okay? I cannot even imagine what type of psycho mode he just transferred into for this week. I mean, I bet you he has the whole team hanging out in a hyperbaric chamber while they're drinking Pedialyte, studying the play. I mean, dude, those guys, he'll say all the right things publicly. Privately, all of those guys know how much this means to him. He'll say all the right things, and Belichick says they have a good relationship. Right. Right. As if. No. He wants to win the game. They're going to win the game. I would take the Bucs to cover. I'm going to tease them down to -1. But if I had to, I would take the Bucs to cover. We've seen over the years when somebody talks trash to Brady or talks trash about the Patriots during the week, and then Brady throws 4 touchdowns on him and screams at him in the end zone as he's running. That's like this whole game. I would be stunned if Tom Brady and the Bucs lost this game. This is more important to him than the Super Bowl.
The irony of that is.
Hold on one second.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I was going to say, why aren't you willing to just lay the points, period? What's the difference to you?
Because 7 points is a decent amount. I think that the Patriots are going to be geared up for this. I think the Patriots have a decent team. I'm very disappointed by the Bucs defense. They have not been able to get a pass rush. Mm-hmm. Their secondary is so beat up that they had to sign Richard Sherman this week. So I think that the concern is really the Bucs defensively as much as anything. So it feels to me like about a 27-21 game. something like that, 24-20 maybe. But late in the game, Brady's going to make the play to win it. I just don't know if he wins by double digits or 2 scores.
Yeah, that's why the spread's the great equalizer, because no one's betting on the Patriots this week. But I think everyone thinks the Bucs are going to win, and that's why you're not getting any Patriots love on the line. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to cover this. Line value, I know Ross loves to look ahead lines. 5.5 last week. Now it's 7. And probably deserving. The Patriots looked so bad last week, but got to give credit to New Orleans defense. Again, I think that Saints defense, we're going to look back, when we do the show in week 17, and we're going to be like, man, Saints really good defense this year. The Bucs have not been that kind of defense. So this is a backdoor game where I think the Bucs are going to have the lead, and I think Mac Jones will have a chance to cover the spread late. That's why it is a good teaser spot. And Ross making those points about Tom Brady is spot on, but the irony is, I'm assuming Bill Belichick is preaching the exact opposite to his team. This is just another game, no big deal. Who cares? We don't care about Brady or any of that stuff. So, and those are, I think that's just the dichotomy of the personalities of those two, player, coach. And it is fascinating. It will be fascinating to see the scheme that New England's defense throws out there, even if it doesn't work, because it's going to show you what Bill Belichick thinks Tom Brady's weaknesses are. And that chess match to me is fascinating. This is a better watch game than a bet game. And I'd say the teaser with Tampa Bay is probably the only way I would ever put my money at risk in this one.
Hey, Ross, you did play up there in New England for a little bit.
Yeah.
You were Tom Brady's teammate. Now, granted, this was 15-ish years ago.
I know.
Can you fill us in on anything about the relationship between quarterback and coach?
I think that they have a healthy respect for each other, but they're both really, really competitive people. And no matter what they say publicly, they both want more of the credit for what happened with the 6 championships. And they both know the credit for those 6 championships is going to be determined to some extent on what they do when they're no longer with each other. And we have only a 1-year sample size with Tom Brady. It was pretty good. Kind of won the Super Bowl with a new team in his first year. We have a much longer sample size with Belichick, and it's not good. I mean, Chris, you know this. 3 years in New England without Brady, have never made the playoffs without him. 2000, 2008, last year. Cleveland, I don't know if he was there 4 or 5 years, made the playoffs 1 year. So it's not good. Here's the other thing, too. And, Chris, you've probably heard this, but over the years, the amount of Patriots coaches that would go other places and privately diminish what Brady had accomplished as like, Brady's not that great. Like, yeah, it's really the scheme. It's really like what we do. Even this week, Belichick's like, yeah, what they're doing in Tampa is what we did here. Well, guess what, Bill? Then it should be really easy to defend. I look forward to you guys shutting them out Sunday night.
What percentage, let's get off the gambling bit for just a second. What percentage of the NFL fan base that doesn't have a dog in this one is rooting for Tom and Tampa in this one? Don't you think it's like 95%?
I think Tom's become a very likable figure.
I don't know about that. A lot of people don't like him. A lot of people think he's I think a lot of people are jealous of him. I think a lot of people think he's a pretty boy. I think a lot of people think he's a cheater because of the Deflategate thing. There's actually a lot more negativity around Brady than you would think. I know this much. You will never, ever, ever, ever find one teammate to say one bad word about him. Yeah. The guy is awesome. That's not the case with Aaron Rodgers, not the case with Roethlisberger, not the case with Bill Belichick. I can tell you that much for sure. It's almost unbelievable how Brady can have played with like thousands of guys at this point and be universally loved. Maybe that's part of the reason why he's had so much success. Maybe that's why Gronk didn't retire from football. Gronk retired from Belichick. So he was happy to come back out and play with Brady in Tampa. Now he's playing the guy retired like 3 years ago.
Great call. In case you're curious, Bill Belichick has won 77% of his games when Tom Brady's been under center, 46% when it's somebody else.
That's better than the McVay stat, I think, right?
Hey, Jared. My look-ahead line tells me Belichick's not going to win a Super Bowl without Brady. But my look-ahead line
My look-ahead line probably agrees with you unless Mac Jones just, turns into like a superhuman over the next year or so.
All right, guys, let's look ahead to the Monday night game. The undefeated 3-0 Las Vegas Raiders coming into one of their old homes, Los Angeles, although they never called SoFi Stadium home. So now we've got quite an interesting quarterback matchup. Derek Carr is playing out of his gourd. Justin Herbert just had a huge win and a 4-touchdown performance on the road in Arrowhead. Jared, what are you keeping your eye on here?
Chargers are grading out really well, according to a lot of the experts that we're talking to, a lot better than people think. In fact, one of the bookmakers we talked to this week said when we look back on that Chiefs game on Sunday, we, maybe in 10 weeks or, towards the end of the season, we're not going to be surprised at the outcome of that game compared to other 7-point underdogs winning outright on the road. That one might not surprise us. And I think it's because of just how good the coaching staff has been, the continuity in making sure Herbert didn't take that step back. And how good is Justin Herbert looking now? He was good as a rookie. And compared to how good he looked as a rookie compared to the rest of the rookie quarterback class this year. And this rookie quarterback class this year was supposed to be really good. But Herbert looks way better than anyone from, if you take his numbers last year and you kind of extrapolate it to what we're seeing so far with some of the rookie quarterback class. So Justin Herbert, incredible. Obviously, Derek Carr, if you want to call it a rejuvenation story, whatever you want to call it, he does look the part. But again, this Raiders team was supposed to be very volatile heading into the year. And their win total was right around 7. And I'm not ready to just go all in that they've cured all of those issues that made Vegas think that they were going to be a sub 500 team. So I'd be a little hesitant to buy the steam with the Raiders. But this is a spot where the winner of this game is going to be kind of in that catbird seat right now with Denver to be, in the AFC West, which is becoming a very interesting division. So I would lean Chargers because of the advanced metrics we're seeing, but tough not to take 3 and the hook in a divisional game with the Raiders, who look very good.
Agree with a lot of what Jared just said. Here's how I look at it, though. I love getting 3.5.
Sure.
I think it's like the greatest value you can get in a betting line, number one.
Yep.
Number two, in my mind, this game is being priced as if the LA Chargers have home field advantage. Guess what? They don't. And Chris, I'd love to hear your guess about how many Raiders fans will be at that game Monday night. I'm going to guess 75%, maybe 80%.
Yeah, great point.
I only know like 2 Chargers fans in Los Angeles. I know a lot of Raiders fans, and they're 3-0. And people are excited. I think that play is going to be all silver and black. I believe the bookmakers have priced this game like the Chargers are the home team. The Raiders are the home team. Give me the Raiders 3.5.
It's fair.
That's a great point you bring up.
Yeah.
But I thought the same thing was going to happen in week 2 when the Chargers played their home opener in front of fans for the first time against the Dallas Cowboys. I had heard it was actually very close to a 50-50 split, and the Chargers were thrilled that it was actually that close because Dallas, as we know, they've got allegedly their America's team. And then you've got the Raiders. And by the way, next week they host the Cleveland Browns, a fan base which really travels. This is very pressing, and I think it wears on the players a little bit. They will never come out and say it. But, man, like the few years they played down at the soccer stadium in Carson, almost every week it was probably 2/3 in favor of the visiting team, and it wore on them, Ross.
They had to do silent cadence at home sometimes. It's terrible. And I'll tell one quick story as far as that goes. I don't think it made a difference in the outcome of the game. But week 17, 2004, Buffalo Bills were 9-6. We're playing the 14-1 Pittsburgh Steelers. If we win, we make the playoffs as a wild card. Ran out of the tunnel. Home game, Buffalo. Felt like half the stadium was waving the terrible towel.
Wow.
And it was just disappointing. Like, I get it. Economy was rough. I'm sure Bills fans sold their tickets or whatever, but I don't think either consciously or subconsciously it impacted the game. But it was kind of a bummer. It's like, what are we even doing here? Like, why is it 50% Steelers fans here?
Okay, great point. We will get to tonight's game, a cat fight, if you will, in Cincinnati between the Jags and the Bengals shortly. But I want to get to the teaser line. And once again, we appreciate that we've got probably some very experienced bettors here and also some people that are new to it. So when they hear teaser, Jared, I want you to explain exactly what goes into teaser play.
So the standard teaser is a 6-pointer, which means you can move the line 6 points in your favor, but you have to pair it with another, or you can pair it with multiple teams. You don't have to do just 2. You can do 3 or 4. But I think once you go over 2, then you start to get a little bit frisky, a little too frisky for my blood. So my standard teaser, I do at least 1 a week. Sometimes I do 2, depending on how many legs we get. But I do a 6-pointer, and you're laying about 20-ish cents. Some books charge a little bit more. Some books charge less, and that's why the price shopping is important. But you're paying for this. You're paying more usually than the standard minus 110. So that's why you have to take very careful consideration into what numbers you are moving. Because as we know in the NFL, some numbers are worth more than others. And if I'm paying for something, like if I go buy a dozen donuts and I only get 11 in the box, I'm going to be pretty upset. So when we're looking about which games you tease, obviously you want to try to always cross the 2 most key numbers, the keyest numbers, 7 and 3. That's why when we look at teaser spots, the best ones are the favorites between -8 and -9, because then you can move those down to -2. -9, that's where I draw the line. 8.5 is probably the best spot to move it down to 2.5. But that's always something to keep in mind when you're looking at teasers. Don't cross 0. You're losing value there. And you always want to cross at least 1 key number, but the goal is 2. And then the most key 2 numbers are always the goal, 7 and 3.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for the explanation. That clears things up. With all that being said, Ross Tucker, you're always talking about teasers. So explain what you got working this week.
Right. So that's why the best numbers to tease in my mind are usually 7.5, 8, 8.5. Teasing a favorite down to -1.5, -2, -2.5. If it's a team you really think they're going to win the game, but you're a little more concerned about a backdoor cover or just a big number, you can tease them down. You also, if you've got underdog that you think is a live dog, but they're only getting a point, 1.5, 2 points, maybe 2.5. For example, this week, Detroit in Atlanta, you can tease them the other way. You can tease them up so that they go through the key numbers of 3 and 7, up to 7.5, 8. So I've got at least 5. Last week, I was 3 for 3 on teasers. They were all 2-unit plays for me. It was awesome. And what I did last week is I actually felt most confident in Buffalo. So I actually paired the Bills with Arizona, with Carolina, with Cleveland. So I went Buffalo, Cleveland, Buffalo, Arizona. So you could do a 2-2-2-team teasers, but I did 3 2-team teasers with the Bills as one of the teams in each. Mm-hmm. This week, I like Tennessee, I like New Orleans, I like Kansas City, I like Detroit, and I like Atlanta. So I'm doing a round robin teaser. What does that mean? I'm teasing them all, every combination. So it's essentially 10 teasers. So Tennessee, New Orleans, Tennessee, Kansas City, Tennessee, Detroit, Tennessee, Atlanta, New Orleans, Kansas City, New Orleans, et cetera, et cetera. Wow. 1 unit on each. That way, if you're just pairing them and you get one wrong, then you're out of luck. But if you feel pretty confident all of them, then tease them all. And if you just lose one, okay, then you're going to lose 3 of those, but you'll still win the other 7.
There's a strategy involved. Usually what I do is I rank my teaser spots 1 through 5. I mean, if I get past 5, that's rare. And then I'll pair 1 and 2, and then I'll pair 3 and 4. And if I have 5 and 6, I'll pair 5 and 6. It's almost like a ranking system. So this week, 1 and 2, certainly the Chiefs and certainly the Saints. And 3 and 4, Packers at home against the Steelers. And I would take the Ravens to a touchdown. I think even if I know I'm betting Baltimore outright, but even if Denver does win that game, I don't see them winning by a lot. And I think those are my top 4. So I have 4 on the spot this week: New Orleans, Kansas City, Green Bay, and Baltimore.
Boy, that's a lot of action. That's a lot of fun. No question. All right, let's do our deep dive into a little Thursday night football. Kicking off week 4, you've got the 2-1 Cincinnati Bengals. I will repeat, 2-1 Cincinnati Bengals playing host to Urban Meyer, Trevor Lawrence, and the winless Jags. The good news for Urban Meyer, he's kind of returning home. He played his college football at the University of Cincinnati before starting his coaching career, eventually ending up at The Ohio State University, where he had some degree of success. And now he's looking for his first ever win. Ross, what do you have here?
Well, what I have is that the number is now up to 7.5 some places. And at that number, I kind of like the Jags. You know, I think you could consider Cincinnati as a teaser spot, but their O-line is still a little shaky, and I know they look great against the Steelers, but they didn't look very good against the Chicago Bears the week before. They were fortunate against the Vikings. Call it a feeling, but I think this is a close game. I really do. I kind of like Trevor Lawrence and the Jags to hang in there. They showed me some things last week. The real issue for Trevor Lawrence has been turning the football over. If he doesn't, I think this is a back and forth game. Who are the Cincinnati Bengals to be laying 7.5 at this point to anybody? I like the Jags and the points.
I agree. Line value wise, definitely says the Jags. Look ahead 6.5. I'll just throw it out there because I know we love that. So now you're getting over that key number of 7. You're getting the extra hook there. I'll say this about the Bengals. I think Joe Burrow, who's the second guy right now to win Comeback Player of the Year behind Dak, and also Jamar Chase, who's right now in some spots the favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Those are the two guys that are going to cut. If the Bengals can cover this number, it's because Burrow and Chase just totally go to town on a Jags defense that's really struggled to start this season. Now, on the other side, too, if you want to make a case for Cincinnati, this might surprise you. It might not. DVOA, top 5 team right now through the first 3 weeks of the year. I would not have expected that by the Bengals. I would have expected the offense to be what carried them, but their defense has been pretty good. Say what you want about the opponents that they face, but their defense has graded out pretty well so far. I can't lay over a touchdown on a Thursday night game. That's a hard pass for me. But I would be concerned with Jacksonville's defense. If Joe Burrow wants to put on a show on primetime, national TV, he has the defense to face, and that would be the one thing that could wreck this game. Burrow and Chase just showing you how good they are.
One interesting futures play that I've kept my eye on, the coach of the Bengals, Zach Taylor, probably on the hot seat coming into this season, 40-1 to win Coach of the Year honors. If somehow he navigates that minefield that is known as the AFC North and gets his team to, 10 wins and a wild card berth, I mean, you can cash some good coin there, Jared.
Yeah, and again, you hit the nail on the head with the Coach of the Year stuff when we did our initial shows. It's guys that are not expected to win who do win, and that is absolutely the situation in Cincinnati, no doubt.
Okay, how about let's do an anytime TD? Somebody had Sam Darnold last week. Was that you, Jared?
Of course. Come on. Quarterback rushing touchdown props are becoming my new favorite thing.
Okay.
I don't know if I like one this week, but maybe Lawrence. I would throw Lawrence maybe in there. I would throw Trevor in there. Yeah, they were telling him he needs to run a little more, so why not?
Plus 350 at this point. Ross?
You know who I like? Dan Arnold. Plus 450. I'm bringing the whole show back.
Does he know the playbook yet?
I'm bringing the whole show back full circle. I think Urban Meyer wants to hit up Dan Arnold in the red zone. Specialty package, show everybody how smart he is for that trade he made. By the way, Dan Arnold went from an undefeated team to a winless team. But he doesn't care. He's going to get by the way, Dan Arnold just started making more money. No state income tax in Florida. So his first check, he's like, oh, wow, this is sweet. I make more money now. And he's going to get the ball more, including a touchdown on Thursday Night Football.
Don't mind it.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I thought it'd be a better value. He's plus 450. It's interesting, though. I mean, it's first game. We don't even know if 100% sure he's going to draft. He's going to draft. He's got it.
I would say Jamar Chase has moved a little too much for my liking at minus money, but he scored 4 touchdowns in 3 games. So, that's – I would say if you want to bet Jamar Chase, I would just bet him to win O'Roy instead of the touchdown prop. But I think he scores a touchdown, too.
I know we started the show saying that you guys both have winning records so far, and it's really unimportant to see who's better. I have the numbers in front of me. Do you guys care to know who's better?
Sure. Throw it at us.
I need both parties to agree to this before releasing it publicly.
Let me look it up. Oh, yeah, you can say it.
Jared, you are 10-6-1 so far. Very good. Ross, you're 14-9.
Also good.
Those are both outstanding percentages so far. If anybody's smart enough to listen to either one of you, then they're making some coin, and that's all we care about.
We're a combined 24-15-1.
Tremendous.
My look-ahead line says you should do what Jared and I tell you to do.
I'll throw one more bonus one. We didn't have time for this one. Browns, Vikings over 51. I don't play a ton of totals, but this one stood out to me this week. I think the Browns defense is struggling and the Vikings defense has been dreadful. So,
well, the Browns defense has been struggling against anybody that doesn't run a 6th grade football package like the Bears did last week. Holy smokes. Ross had bad flashbacks just watching Myles Garrett do his thing. I think all offensive linemen felt the pain. You kidding me?
Listen, I'll just say this. You can't get 9 sacks with a quarterback that knows what they're doing.
No.
You just can't. It doesn't happen.
And it has
right?
the legs of
It's
Justin.
only a young quarterback that gets sacked 9 times. Like, throw the ball away, bro. I mean, I know they were bad, but throw it away, please, for your own good.
Quick reminder, check us out on our Pickswise YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. It doesn't mean you're subscribing for thousands of dollars. It means you're subscribing for free. And also give us the old thumbs up. Ding! It'll do our guys some good. Leave us your picks, but leave them before the games happen because afterward we call that cheating and then it's not as impressive. So help us out. Also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Pickswise and check out the new Pickswise app available all over the place. Follow us. It's that simple. Ross Tucker, you have a good, safe week. Are you going to a game?
No NFL game. Saturday, I have University of Buffalo hosting Western Michigan. The last time I was at Buffalo, their running back had 8 touchdowns and 420 yards.
Patterson?
And the coach pulled him at the 25-yard line. So I have been assured by this year's head coach that he will not pull a guy if he's 25 yards away from the all-time record in yards and touchdowns for a college football player.
Very good. Jared, you have a good week as well.
Thank you very much.
Importantly, to everybody who tuned in, have a great week and go win some dough. We'll see you next time here on Pickswise Playbook.